Ginger continued her busy schedule. Less than a week after completing Roberta with Fred Astaire, she started Star of Midnight with William Powell, on loan from MGM. Powell was a great actor, and Ginger more than holds her own alongside him in this sophisticated, witty, comedic mystery movie. This movie did very well, with a nice $265,000 profit for RKO. This is a very good movie, great performances by the leads, and some excellent performances by some of the supporting cast. Totally charming. It suffered then, as now, with comparisons between it and Powell's breakout role in The Thin Man, released almost a year before, and Ginger and Myrna Loy's performances of a similar role. This is silly to me. Hollywood copying a successful film? They never do that. Really, how many truly original movies are there? Taking Star of Midnight on its own merit, it is very enjoyable. The reviews were positive. William Powell started on the stage by 1912, entered the silence in 1924, but made his mark with his great voice once movies transitioned to sound. His breakout role was in 1933's The Kennel Murder Case. 1934's The Thin Man made him a star. Powell could do comedy, drama, or thrillers. He was engaged to Jean Harlow when she died, and took off from acting for a year. His last Best Actor nomination was for 1947's Life with Father. All good movies are enhanced by excellent performances by character actors, and this is no exception. Paul Kelly is great as the tough but smart and oddly honorable gang leader, with whom Powell shares a mutually respectful, if confrontational, relationship. Kelly had an active career. According to Wikipedia, it is estimated that Kelly worked on stage, screen, and television in over 400 roles, starting his career on Broadway at 8, in The Silence at 12, and working nonstop until his early death in 1956 at age 57 from a heart attack. Brought up in a tough Brooklyn neighborhood, his criminal record added authenticity to his playing gangsters. April 16, 1927, he beat fellow actor and previous close friend Ray Raymond to death over his affair with Raymond's wife, actress Dorothy McKay. Kelly was sentenced to up to 10 years, but served only 25 months in San Quentin prison. McKay was convicted of attempted cover-up and sentenced to 1 to 3 years, but served less than 10 months. Kelly and McKay married in 1931. Then McKay died 3 days after an auto crash in 1940. It also featured the consummate character actor J. Farrell McDonald, who appeared in over 300 movies between 1911 and 1951. This was McDonald's third and final appearance with Ginger, and he is great as the tough, smart, and capable big city detective. He had appeared twice before with Ginger and displays his wide acting range. First in the comedic role as the not-very-bright police chief in The 13th Guest, then as a tough but kind beat police officer in Ginger's previous movie without Fred, Romance in Manhattan, and now here. No wonder he was in over 300 performances. Very accomplished character actor Gene Lockhart plays Powell's befuddled butler and provides some light comedy in the role. Leslie Fenton plays the lover of the star of the movie's title, who asks Powell for help in finding her. He was great in The Public Enemy, playing Nails Nathan, but here his role gives him nothing to work with. Ginger was with director Stephen Roberts for the second time, previously in Romance in Manhattan, and both movies are very well directed, sharp and crisp. After doing countless shorts since 1923, he must have learned how to cut all the unnecessary fluff. He passed away within a year at only 40 years old. One thing Ginger loved about this movie was her wardrobe, a very important subject to her. In her bio, she wrote that fashion designer Bernard Newman designed some lovely dresses. I especially loved my opening outfit, a white mink blouse with a black velvet skirt. It was so Fifth Avenue. If you watch this movie, and I hope you do, it is truly worthwhile. I give you this caution. When a character is introduced, take notice of the name, because the plot is very convoluted and the names fly around in conversation. And without the names, you will get confused as to what is going on. I sure was on the first viewing. All my movie reviews are spoilers, so please, watch enough of this to decide to watch this movie, and then turn this off. In Chicago, Fenton sees the mysterious Alice Markham off, to see later that evening, but she disappears after sending a telegram. A year later he goes to Powell, a successful lawyer, famous for doing great detective work in several previous cases, for help. Lockhart, his butler, informs him Ginger is on her way over, and he explains his odd relationship with her.
I've known her since she was 10. She ran away from home when she was 11. They found her in my apartment. She announced that she had decided to marry me.
Oh, be careful of her.
You could go a lot further and do a lot worse.
A newspaper reporter, performed by Russell Hopton, calls Powell to confirm a series of stories about him. First, a wedding announcement to Ginger.
Did you tell Tommy Tennant that we were going to be married?
Certainly. Well, you can't get ruled off for trying.
And then Ginger being seen with an infamous gangster. Ginger pulls Powell off to the side and asks for help with her gangster dilemma. He tells her she is a brat and should be spanked.
Must be terrible for a woman to have a daughter like you.
My mother just adores me.
It'd be more to the point if she spanked you. I have a mind to do it myself.
Well, this'll be new.
You asked for it.
Say, that hurt!
They're going to see the new hit play, Midnight, starring the mysterious Mary Smith, who always wears a mask in public.
A woman like that captures the imagination. Mysterious.
Mysterious, my eye. Your masked marvel probably has a wart on the end of her nose.
Meow. To the mysterious Mary Smith.
They go to the show, but Powell has to leave to meet with Ginger's gangster. Ginger has second thoughts about sending Powell on such a dangerous errand, but he goes anyway. On the way out, he talks with the reporter and the play's producer, and then meets up with an old fling, performed by Vivian Oakland, and her latest in a long string of husbands, performed by Ralph Morgan, brother of Frank Morgan, of Wizard of Oz fame. I don't like being shallow about appearances, but I don't get Oakland being cast as this woman so desirable to men she rapidly goes through husbands, has numerous affairs on the side, and causes Ginger to be so jealous. Powell asks the gangster, Kelly, for Ginger's letters. Kelly threatens Powell until Powell blackmails him over proof of tax evasion, and Kelly hands over the letters. Powell is keeping the proof as a life insurance policy. Kelly takes it surprisingly well, and is even a gentleman, helping Powell on with his coat. They hear on the radio Smith disappeared mid-performance. Fenton tells Powell he has found his girl. She was Mary Smith, the star of Midnight. He recognized her during the show, regardless of the mask, and yelled out to her. Smith was so startled she had to restart the scene and disappeared after the first act. The doorbell rings, and Fenton hides in another room. Reporter Hopton comes in looking for Fenton and tells Powell almost the same exact story. Just as he is about to tell Powell the entire story he has figured out, he is shot dead, and Powell is grazed by another bullet. The gunman was from the same room Fenton had hid in, and Fenton is now gone. Powell calls Detective McDonald, who immediately puts a team to work on the case. He questions Powell, and then his assistant, Robert Emmert O'Connor, asks about the gun and Powell's fingerprints on it. O'Connor is dumb and here for comic relief, but it is the one part of the movie that does not work for me. Fenton calls in the middle of the interrogation, saying he had been knocked cold in the room by two men and woke up in a park. Powell lies to MacDonald that the caller's Ginger, and then Ginger walks in a moment later. O'Connor wants to go after Powell for his lie, but MacDonald has a different plan.
You can't break him with words. Words are his business. He's a lawyer. Now just let him alone and let him do the work for us.
Powell gives Ginger the letters.
You can quit worrying. I've got your letters. Oh, that's all right.
Well, I certainly went for that one, all right.
Now, Boy Scout, you did your good deed. Somebody had to do something for the poor girl.
Oh.
They discuss Powell being in trouble after being caught in the lie. Then Lockhart lets it slip that Powell has been shot, giving Ginger an excuse.
Just what do you think you're doing?
Staying here? To nurse you back to health? Where are we going?
We're not going anywhere. You're going home. Good night, Martin.
In the morning, Ginger is still there.
You know me, the Florence Nightingale of Park Avenue.
The police are already there to question Powell and tell Ginger they want to talk to Powell in private.
Oh, by all means. Swain, we are not to be disturbed.
It's okay.
Well, that'll be fine. We can get everything cleaned up at once.
So many of the comments and reviews of this movie talk about how lovely the bathroom decor is. I really do not understand people sometimes. This is one of their major takes on this movie. Even MacDonald is impressed.
Swell bathroom you got here.
Yeah.
Up at my place, the tub and shower is all in one.
Powell keeps on getting caught in lies about issues having nothing to do with the case. It would be suicide for him to drag Kelly into this investigation.
Why didn't you stay last night?
Well, I thought I'd rather take a walk.
That's why you took a cab?
You're quite right, Inspector. I have been lying to you.
Yes, I know. Most people do.
How about a little tonic for your patient?
When?
When?
Sure you're not trying to get rid of me?
Oh, Donna.
Powell accuses Fenton of shooting him. Fenton denies. He tells Fenton to get out of town. Fenton refuses. He has to find his girl. Powell volunteers a very eager Ginger and a very reluctant Lockhart to join his investigation. Powell gets what info he can from the play's producer, including Smith's only visitor was reporter Hopton. Ginger shows up in an absurd disguise and reports on her findings from the cab station outside the theater, all absurdly irrelevant. And when she starts reciting poetry, Powell ditches her, leaving her with his bar tab. Powell goes to Smith's hotel room, only to find Ginger there first. MacDonald comes in right after. MacDonald tells O'Connor Powell is doing great with his investigation. Powell comes back and questions the doorman, and seemingly gets nothing. As he walks away, two of Kelly's goons grab him. Kelly tells him his men are tailing him to protect him, in Kelly's own interest. But there are other goons tailing him, so he should end his involvement in the case. Powell finally makes it to the bar where he was to meet Ginger, and she is jealous.
What kept you this time? Did you get mixed up with some other woman?
Oh, hello, Martin.
Am I an orphan?
2 martinis.
I'll take the same. 2 martinis.
Ginger's comment about Smith's sparse room makes Powell realize that room is not where Smith lived, and he thanks her. Powell retires early to get an early start on the next day, but his ex-Oakland comes by, asking questions about his case. Ginger appears from nowhere.
And what is the meaning of this?
I'm sure I don't know.
And who is this?
I am Mrs. Dalzell. Who are you? So this is why you bundled me off into the spare room. Your cold was worse. How dare you do such a thing? And after we've been married for only 2 weeks, you having a rendezvous with another woman, me right in the same house. How could you be so sordid? I knew your past wasn't all that it might have been. And I was willing to forget and forgive.
All right, Boy Scout. You've done your good deed for today. How did you know that I wanted to get rid of her?
I didn't.
In the morning, Powell is there with the doorman, tailed by Kelly's men, the unknown gangsters, and the cops. He hops on a trolley, ditching his tails, and spends the day trying to follow Smith's every morning routine. Later he meets with Ginger. He muses about the case and ignores her talking about their wedding.
I finally found a bus driver who remembered picking up a girl of her description every morning and taking her to Washington Square. What happened after she got off the bus?
What do you say we give up this detecting business and go in for some plain or fancy matrimony?
I can't get the thing out of my mind. It's got so many queer angles.
What'll it be? A church wedding or a quiet one at home?
Did you say something?
No.
His ex's new husband, Morgan, has been waiting to see Powell and ask questions about the case. He explains his interest.
My best friend is facing the electric chair, Mr. Dalzell. And the only chance I have to save him is to find Alice Markham. I attended the performance of Midnight. You remember, I met you there. Someone stood up and shouted, "Alice." Then suddenly everything became clear to me.
Returning to the apartment, Butler Lockhart has a witness who can point out an individual who acted suspicious that night and left early. The witness is terrified when he sees Powell, and then describes this person going to see Kelly, and Powell realizes he is the suspicious character.
But that's me you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Nice going, Sherlock.
Oh.
Shut up.
What's the matter, Sherlock? Aren't we going to play detective anymore?
No. When I've got to pay a reward to a correspondence school detective, find out that the most promising suspect in a murder case I'm investigating is myself, I'd better quit.
Ginger calls out his BS, and Powell admits all he's been doing is proving his friend Fenton is the murderer. Ginger notices a crooked picture on the wall, and Powell finds a recording device. Kind of surprising how large this device, called the dictograph, was back then. Some shadowy figure runs from the terrace when it is discovered. Powell asks Kelly to hide Fenton, but Kelly's men cannot find him. McDonald denies putting the recording device in Powell's apartment. Then Kelly's men come in with the badly beaten Fenton. Powell tries to question Fenton after the doctor has given him sedatives, and Fenton says the goons will kill Smith if they find her. He said Smith hated Maroney, Morgan's friend, who was on trial for murdering Dexter. Kelly has it all figured out. Smith was confronting Maroney when Dexter was killed, so she ran when he was accused to avoid providing him an alibi. Powell is a little suspicious Kelly knows so much about the case. Powell's ex-Oakland calls, and Butler Lockhart tells her Powell was not home, under Ginger's instructions.
I forgot to mention it, but I decided Mrs. Klassen is nobody for you to play around with.
Madam, you're a swell gal. But the next time you stick your nose into my business...
Now, don't take that attitude. A girl has to be careful about the reputation of the man she's going to marry. You certainly can't stand being mixed up with that woman.
Ginger had investigated Oakland and tells Powell during her current marriage Oakland had 4 affairs, including one with later murdered Dexter and then with the accused murderer Maroney. Powell comes to the obvious conclusion that Morgan would not be defending Maroney, as Morgan claims to be, if his wife had an affair with him. A gunshot rings out, and they find Fenton on the floor with a gun in his hand. Fenton says there was a woman with a gun at the window. He found Powell's gun and fired at her. Ginger complains she is totally in the dark about the case, and as usual, Powell ignores her. A package arrives, and Powell tells Ginger they're going to rent an apartment. Once there, Ginger looks at the drab appearance and comments, "It isn't exactly what I would have picked, but it is probably better than Niagara Falls." Powell tests playing the contents of the package, a recording of Smith singing, at different spots in the apartment, and puts it in the back room. Ginger says, "Maybe I had the wrong idea about this whole thing." Powell calls McDonald and tells him the murderers soon will be at this apartment. Powell hands Ginger a list of the suspects, including Lockhart and Ginger as a joke.
Jim Kinlan, Donna Clay Dalzell.
Powell tells those on the list he is bringing Smith to his apartment in a half hour. She is now at this apartment, and he gives the address. The suspects are Fenton, his friend; Lockhart, his butler; Oakland, his ex; Riker, the play producer; Morgan, his ex's husband; and Kelly, the gangster.
I've been in love with you all of my life, and this is the first time you've ever disappointed me. Now, it's all right to fool the rest of those people, but Tim's heart's going to be broken when he walks into your apartment and finds you haven't got Mary Smith there. That is not funny.
Good girl. And you're right, unless Tim is the murderer.
Oh.
Powell pulls out a deck of cards. Ginger's very confused.
Tommy Tennant was killed just as he was going to tell me something about Mary Smith, right?
Right.
The murderer didn't want that something told. Now, who else would know that something?
Mary Smith.
Exactly. So the murderer will never let her get to my apartment. The innocent ones will go there. The guilty one will come here to stop it.
McDonald arrives, says they have already captured the murderer, and is soon to arrive at his headquarters. McDonald goes to leave, and Powell begs him to stay.
I'm telling you, you'd better stay.
Now, Mr. Dalzell, you ain't going to tell me my business, are you? Good night, folks.
Without the safety of the detective, Powell wants to rush Ginger out of there. Too late, the killer walks in the door. She demands Smith come out from the back room, and then the record starts skipping. Powell is stalling for time. Ginger tries to take a peek and is grabbed from behind. Powell has to make his move.
All right. I'll talk. Oh, where is Donna? Donna?
Is she dead?
McDonald never left. He thought someone might be listening in, so he set a trap. How could Ginger ever end up behind the couch? Powell pulls the mask off the murderer, and it is Morgan, his ex's husband. Many commentators claim they long ago figured out the guilty party, and I am sure they did. There were enough hints. I did not, partly because I did not pay enough attention to all the names, or maybe I'm just a little slow. Even with that, the commentators liked the movie, regardless that the mystery did not last to the end. McDonald heard Morgan admit to killing the reporter, so the case is closed. Or so he thinks.
Inspector, Klassen not only killed Tommy Tennant, he also bumped off Fred Dexter in Chicago. Donna, you were right about Mrs. Klassen's affairs with Dexter and Maroney. That's why Klassen killed Dexter and then fixed the blame on Maroney. And that's what Tommy Tennant meant by the greatest double cross ever pulled. For although Klassen was Maroney's lawyer, he was trying to do away with Maroney's alibi, Alice Markham. And that's why she disappeared from the Prince Theater. It wasn't Tim's shout that frightened her. It was seeing Klassen sitting in the second row. She blamed Maroney for her father's death. Her mask, her disappearances, were all because she hated Maroney and wouldn't testify. And if Mr. Klassen had only known that, well, he could have saved himself considerable headache.
Fenton comes in all worried, and Powell tells him Smith is at McDonald's house. Back at their apartment, Kelly has sent flowers. They are just back from Fenton and Smith's wedding. Ginger asks how Powell found Smith, and he did it using bank records to find her address. Ginger calls her father to say she is staying over Powell's tonight and hangs up. Her father calls right back.
Yes? Yes, Daddy. Yes. Yes, of course it's all right. We were married this afternoon.
Please like and subscribe.